Hi, this is The Greatest Story Ever Played. I'm Dan.
I'm Jordan.
And today we're wrapping up Kentucky Route Zero with Act 5.
Oh yeah, super excited. It's a long road for a lot longer for other people. You know what it took 9 years to, from Act 1 to Act 5, but for us it was, a couple months.
Yeah, I think it was 7. I think it was like 2013 to the beginning of 2020, like January 2020.
Oh wow.
Which is wild. I imagine that their experience with this game is really cool and special and unique in some ways that, us playing it over, like you said, a few months, we didn't have to wait so long.
Yeah, very true.
And I imagine just, speculating for years about, between episodes. That would be wild, just to be, thinking about the little bit you've got, and you're like, okay, what could this mean or that mean? And especially with this game, because it's so wild, and the interludes connect to the acts, but who the hell knows how, when you're in them.
Yeah, it seems, we I feel like we made a few best guesses each interlude, but it was generally pretty off.
Right, yeah, it was I know something will come up, but who knows what. Super stoked to be here, though, at Act 5. And so, like we normally do, we're going to do our recap, and we'll also talk about what we thought about the episode itself, and then we'll kind of scale backwards and talk about Kentucky Route Zero as a whole as well, since this is the final episode. So with that, I guess we'll begin with Act 5, which is this act starts with you. Last episode, you were heading up those stairs to go deliver to 5 Dogwood Lane. You were almost at the end of your journey, and that takes you here. And when you arrive out of the stairs, you are at a town that's post-flood, but the sun's begun to come in, and I don't know, everyone's trying to pick up the pieces, I guess.
Yeah, and this is almost, I assume, pretty quick after the last interlude, because we're in that TV station, and there's a giant rainstorm, and it's the same town, so, which we will learn as we go.
Yeah, it's the same town as the previous interlude, which I was really surprised by. I thought that was something in the past. So to have it be something our characters interact with was interesting. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I feel like, and generally they're way more, I feel like more obscure, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But this one was, very direct, oh, okay, this is almost like a prologue. The last interlude was like a prologue to this episode, which I feel like hasn't happened yet in the interludes. Except sort of when we saw the bar, the entertainment, but that was unrelated, just it was the setting.
Right, yeah, it gave you a setting. Or for the dialing service about, the resort along the Echo. You got the idea about it, but you didn't get, characters or, things like that like you do this time. You actually end up meeting all those people from the previous interlude. I like how you said it. I think it really did feel like it was the prologue to this, and I had no idea. I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, same. For sure.
So this episode is, or act, I don't know, interchangeably. I say act and episode, same difference, but this act is a bit different than previous ones. The other ones, you're kind of traveling, you're meeting people. They're not fetch quest, but it almost feels like that at times. This one is totally different. Instead, this one, it is one location the whole time. You're at this town the whole time. And normally, you would play as a character, and you might change characters through the act, but and go and have different conversations with people. Instead, in this one, you travel the town as this little light beam, and the cat goes to where you want to go, and you essentially eavesdrop on the conversations that are there, but you also engage in them and kind of influence what the people say, basically. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and there's a few times you can there's a little button that comes up like a meow, and you can meow as the cat, and then somehow people just understand kind of what you're saying. Yeah, I think throughout this too, you can kind of choose what people, as you mentioned, the influencing the dialogue. You can kind of choose what people say, sort of. You can choose the route the conversation will go.
Yeah, so you're not a total observer. It's weird. You're character, or how you play as an observer, but then you take full participation in the conversations as oh, I think we should do this, or I think we should do that. So it's interesting. I guess people that are here, I guess that's the big thing, because this act also is just largely conversations between our group and the townspeople that are here, and townspeople with each other, our people with each other, our people with the townspeople. Various mixes of that. And so our group, we've got Shannon, Junebug, Johnny, Ezra, and Clara. Last time, we lost, what's his face?
Conway.
Conway, there we go, our main character.
Yeah, used to be the main character.
Yeah, I guess Shannon has kind of taken that role over. So they arrive up here, and they're like, oh, this town's flooded, and they start to kind of help the town rebuild and try to, help sort things out, all of that. One thing in one of these conversations that stood out to me, and I wanted to see what you thought, because I thought it was interesting, is Junebug and Johnny are talking early on after they got up there, and they talk about how bright it is. And they're like, wow, it's just so bright up here. And kind of deciding if they like it or not. They're not sure. And so this made me wonder, so is this part of the real world? Is this part of the Zero? What do you think of it? What's your take?
Yeah, I think this is part of the real world. It's tough because I have two trains of thought. One is, so we saw in Act 1, we were up above, as Conway, we were driving the truck. It was relatively normal. It was nighttime though. But things were still kind of weird. When we go in that gas station, there's those people playing D&D, I guess, and then they just kind of disappear. So there's some weirdness even then. But now this just seems totally normal. There's a tragedy, there's a flood, it's bright, the scenery looks totally different than what we've seen. So I think it's probably the real world. Because it's so different than what we've seen so far.
Okay, interesting.
But at the same time, I could see it being not real because it is so bright and different. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I definitely lean towards it being real, not part of the Zero. But okay. I could be persuaded otherwise, for sure.
So I guess then, if this is the actual real world, maybe this is the only time in the whole game we've been in the real world, and everything else has been in the Narnia, so to speak, of the
yeah.
of the Zero world, and then Route Zero is even more fantasy inside of that.
Maybe, I don't know, because the only reason I would say that is because in Act 1, we saw some of that weirdness with Weaver disappearing. The scene where we're Conway talking to her in the room with the TV, that shit was weird. Mm-hmm. And then the people in the basement playing D&D, that was weird. So that maybe this is the only time it's real, because it's, from what there's some weird stuff that happens for sure, but it's overall normal. And the conversation, the dialogue, what happens feels normal to me, at least. Except for a couple things which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, it does seem like it's largely more normal. Yeah, my thought was that either it's real world, I guess it's obviously either or, but real world, like you said, and so if you always spend your time in the fantasy realm, then maybe experiencing real life is sort of jarring. Oh man, I didn't remember it being this bright out, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that, or I guess if it is still part of the Zero, but it's the Zero above, then maybe the fantasy light is extra bright. I don't know.
The fantasy light.
Yeah, I don't know how to place it exactly, but I just thought it was notable that they pointed it out. They're wow, it's really bright.
Yeah, one other thing too could be, if they were underground for, I don't know, 3 acts, I don't know how many days that was, but then to go from underground to the top level with sunlight, that'd be pretty sharp contrast. So I wonder if we're thinking too much about it, and it's literally just they were in the underground in the Zero and now they're not, and it's just bright because they're not underground. That could also be an explanation.
That's true. That could be. I guess that that's a good point, because I kind of thought that specifically for Junebug and Johnny, it seems like their thing is that they just go around playing at bars and doing stuff. So, like, they probably don't have any reason to go to, like, the real world.
Well, I guess how many bars do you think are down there, you know? Like, maybe they do bars not on the Zero.
That's true. I guess that's a good point. I guess they could do ones that aren't in that realm. You might be right. I guess simplest explanation would be what you said, that the Zero is really the only fantasy thing. They were underground for a few days, so of course it'd be jarring. So that makes sense. Huh.
Yeah, I might have to do some reading on that. I'm curious. I didn't really put too much thought into that. I just was like assumed, oh yeah, they were out of the Zero, so they're in the normal world again. But I didn't really think about why that would be the case or if that is the case.
Yeah. No, interesting. Yeah, I'd like to read more on it too. Also, anyone who has opinions, I'd love to hear them. We'd love to hear those. That'd be great.
Yeah, for sure.
So then I guess the other kind of big thing with our group here is you can talk to each of our characters and they can decide to either stay and rebuild the town or they can leave and move on. So some of your conversations are like, well, maybe we could fix up this diner. That would be really cool. We could, do shows there on, do open mics on Fridays or something. That's a Junebug Johnny, and maybe if they get Ezra in the band and, stays with them. So everyone kind of has those conversations of whether they want to stay or not.
Yeah. And I generally... Do you try to get people to stay or not? Like, did you have a preference?
Mine was probably a mixed bag because I didn't realize it right away. So some of them that I probably would have had stay did leave. But I think I would have people stay.
Yeah, I definitely pushed. Like, if I had the option, I would try to steer it that way.
Okay.
It just seemed... I just really liked how the town looked, and I felt bad for everyone. So it's like, yeah, let's just all stay and hang out. Especially because the crew we've built over the past 4 acts, it's like, this is just like a solid crew. Let's try to get people to stay and be a crew going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I would have liked too. If I would have caught it earlier, that's definitely what I would have went through the whole way. But I think part of it, I like... in the earlier parts on it, I didn't realize how much I was influencing the conversation, and so I just was kind of like left things ambiguous instead of like saying, "Oh, we should stay," But that's what I would want to. I think try to get the crew to stay together if we can get some of the townsfolk to stay, and kind of start over here.
Yeah, it seemed like a good option, especially because it doesn't look like we have much on here about this, but like when you talk to some of the townspeople, like, well, there's some references to like the corporation, the electric company that was like running the town essentially, and then they like pulled out and shit got really bad. Part of me was like, we gotta stay and make this good without them. Like, fuck the man. Let's do this thing ourselves. That was kind of one of my motivations too.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, get to rebuild ourselves. Totally. On the other side, the townsfolk that are there, so you've got Emily, Ben, and Bob, the big three. We've seen them in most or all of our interludes. I think all of them. I think they're in all of the interludes. They also were playing the D&D game at Act 1. Emily was like the centerpiece for Act 4. She like took us all around the radio or the TV station. So they're there. You've got Ron, who was part of the TV station. You got Slow Mo Crow, who was the crow that was there.
Just doing stuff.
You have Mary Ann and Nikki, who I think were part of the TV station, but I'm not 100%.
Nikki for sure was. I forget if Mary Ann was. I'm 99% sure Nikki was involved in that. I remember her name a bunch from that. But I forget what she was doing.
Okay, cool. I think also, depending how you play, some of the Bureau people are there. The Bureau of Reclaimed Spaces, because I think they maybe followed you from the Rum Island ultimately, or maybe when they heard the town was destroyed, they were maybe going to try to reclaim it. If we didn't settle there.
Classic.
Yeah. Right. So something like that. So yeah, this is kind of your group of people. So really, as the Lightbeam and Cat, you can go and talk to 10 to 15 people probably. There's a lot of potential conversations.
Yep. Who was the guy with the plane? I forget.
Ooh,
Clyde? Is it Clyde or Kyle? I can't remember.
I don't remember either. Clyde sounds right, but I don't remember. Right, because there's a guy who has a plane, and you talk to him about his plane at all times.
Yeah, that was I guess Ezra. I that was one of my favorite conversations. I don't know why, it just was funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess this is maybe worth mentioning at this point too. Like this act episode, whatever, is not doesn't have to really go. It's not necessarily sequential, so it's kind of like there's like groupings of conversations and things that happen, but within that grouping, it's kind of up to you, the player, I think. So it's kind of hard to make it linear.
Yeah, there's not a there's like certain events that need to happen before your act moves forward to like a new scene, essentially. But because it's one open area that you're in the whole time, it's less obvious when those happen. So there's like a couple cue cards where it says like, and then this thing or something like that. But it's very, very different than the previous acts where ongoing would be like scene 3, scene 7, and so on. This one isn't this way. Because when I played, I ended up playing the whole episode when I thought I was just going to play a scene or two and stop. Because I was like, okay, I have a little bit of time, I'll play. And then it just kept going, and I was like, oh, I finished the game. So I was expecting it to be kind of like the previous ones. But then I just ended up finishing it, and I was like, oh, okay. Like, it was fine, but I just was kind of anticipating, I'm going to play 2 scenes and then, go do something else or whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't a long episode. At least in my playthrough, it was decently quick. Like, comparative to some of the previous episodes.
Yeah, I feel like this one was like around an hour and a half for me, maybe.
Yeah, I think I might have got done in like hour 15, hour 10 even.
Yeah, versus like...
I can't remember.
Some of the other acts, I was more at like 2 hours or maybe a little more even.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like act 3 or 4 was like, I might have been near 3. I forget which one exactly.
The one with, where you're, you play that game, or you log onto the computer that has the moss on it. I think that's Act 3.
Yeah.
That one definitely went longer, because, for me, at least, that one took me a little bit longer.
Yeah, so much happened in that one.
Mm-hmm. But, so that sort of sets our stage. A big thing that happens in this episode is 5 Dogwood Lane is at the center of town. And it's actually there, and it's unharmed. The rest of the town has been hit by this water damage, all of that stuff. And this is totally fine. And Emily tells us that this house actually wasn't normally there, that it appeared overnight after the storm. So that's pretty wild.
Weird. Yeah, so maybe part of the 0. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty wild. And this is probably jumping the gun a little bit, but whatever, since this episode's all over, it seems fair to say now, so Weaver, I think, is maybe there as like, she looks kind of like a witch, like she's one of the townsfolk, like blended in sort of, that you can see. And the theory I was reading was that, since she's sort of outside of space and time, maybe, she conjured this house to be here and ordered the furniture to, like, have the town restart with it.
Huh. I did not even catch that.
I didn't catch it in the moment. I was reading it after the fact because I was like, okay, I gotta understand this game a little more.
Like, yeah, what? I gotta make a list of things I need to look at. That's for sure one of them. That might explain it. Yeah, because she's different and weird.
Yeah, and it seems like her kind of fingerprints are on everything, right? Because she was like used to work at Old Time Whiskey, right? And then because she like made something for them.
She was like the accountant.
Yeah.
She made, I forget what they called it, the equation or something.
Yeah. The formula? Is that what it was?
Yeah, the formula. I think it was like the debt formula or some shitty thing like that.
Because that's how they put the debt in the whiskey or whatever. Was maybe off of.
Yeah.
But then she also somehow was able to like take over the TVs, right? They talked about that in the interlude before this.
She would like hijack their TV signal.
Yeah.
And they were like, she'll stop eventually. Okay.
Yeah, so I wonder if being like... Yeah, I don't know. Is she outside of space and time and she's sort of able to will things? I don't know. And I don't know what it means either. But that was something I read and I was like, I guess that explains a random house and that she knew like this will help this town survive later. Like if I can put this here and then, have someone bring furniture here and there'll be people here who will bring it and maybe they'll stay. I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting theory. Because, well, as far as, the whole time Conway thinks that the antique, I forget their names, the wife and the husband, I forget, is it Amelia?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay. Yeah, she like owned the antique shop and this was like her last delivery. So he was under the impression it was her, but that, who knows?
Yeah, because they just weren't sure. Well, yeah, I don't know. It's something for sure.
Yes, it is.
So I guess kind of the next sort of thing, as we've talked about, is cleaning up. That's a big thing. You have various people doing various projects, talking about like, oh, we'll clean this out or that. Ron is mourning the neighbors, who are these two horses who lived in the town, who were killed by this flood. And he digs them a grave. And he's very sad about this. The whole town is sad about the neighbors dying, but Ron is especially broken up about it. And then, this is where we get Wanda. She's evaluating the town for the Bureau of Reclaimed Spaces. So she said that the Bureau has had their eye on this place for a while, that maybe this would be a new location they might take on.
That's, great. It's, annoying. I don't know. Like, how about you actually just help the town instead of taking it? But
yeah, that's what made me think, too, that if we, like, say we're going to stay, maybe they can't have dibs if people will stay. But if everyone leaves, then they won't take it. Or they will take it if everyone leaves. But if people don't, then maybe we can restart the town, almost.
Yeah.
There's one final event. Do you have anything else on stuff that happens before this? Because
there's like random, like we said, there's like random, like interactions you have with people. Like I remember talking to, I think it was Marianne. She was like painting a mural for the people. You can like, you can interact with. I think they're like past people that were there that maybe died. They're like gray, shadowy people. Mm-hmm. You can like, as the cat, go over and interact with them, and like it almost gives you like a thing from the past, like in a conversation or like a interaction or something like that. I think that's what it is. So there's a bunch of those. There's one about like a garbage truck that they were saying that there's, the town never had much garbage, but people would, this old garbage truck showed up, they would just throw the trash in the garbage truck, and then it would somehow just disappear. And then there was another one about planting a garden. Those are the two I remember the most. But they weren't like, I don't know how much they added to the story, but they were interesting. I don't know if you interacted with those at all.
Yeah, I remember the garbage truck one too. I remember that story. There's someone who's like asleep most of the episode. You like keep trying to wake them up, and they finally wake up.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And yeah, the gray figures. I think you're right. I think those are people that must have died in the flood, is my guess.
Yeah, I would assume so. That maybe you just somehow see past interactions they had with other people that died. Yeah, not sure on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. That's how I took it. I guess they could have been people who died in the town previously, and their like ghost are there or something. But
Yeah, that's what I assumed or would assume. But yeah, other than that, I don't think there's like. I guess what I would say is the dialogue's really good and it's worth exploring, but none of it's like 100% crucial. Other than like what we talked about at the beginning, like trying to convince people to stay or not in various ways. Other than that, each conversation is. There's nothing super crazy about it, I'm not trying to say they sucked or something like that, but I think you should just play it for yourself and experience it.
yeah, no, I agree. I think they're things that are like good details. They're enjoyable. They add, I don't know, more personality or whatever to the town, like as you're experiencing it. But yeah, it's not so recapable. It's not as much of like, well, we were in this location and this thing happened there, and then we went to this other one and so on. Like this doesn't play that way at all, like the previous 4 episodes.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah,
it's very very unique, distinct from the past 4.
Yeah, it really is. I was really really surprised by just how it went, and I liked what we got for sure. But yeah, it was just different than what we've seen, so that was interesting. But ultimately, this act climaxes with the funeral. So the whole town gathers for the funeral for the neighbors. And so everyone gathers in front of the barn. Ron has dug the graves. Everyone's there for this. Everyone in the town who's alive, who survived, all of your people are there. And a few people share stories about the horses. I think that
it's so funny they're horses.
Yeah, it's so fun. Yeah, I don't get the reverence for them, but there was clear like reverence for the horses. They were wild horses. It seemed like no one owned them. They like wandered the town. I think they called them the gray one and the other one or something like that. Like,
yeah, or the silver one.
Yeah.
Or the silver one and the other one maybe. It's just so fucking random.
Yeah, totally like fitting this with this game. Is they're like part of us feels like we should have named you. Like how can we not name our friends? But then but you already had a name, even if we didn't know it, or like that kind of thing. So it's it's interesting. But yeah, it's really unique. This funeral for the neighbors for these horses. A few people share stories about the horses and like about what they meant to the town. One of the townspeople share a poem. And then after that, Emily sings "I'm Going That Way," which is like a hymn type of thing. And it's fantastic. It's really, really good. You should 1000% go listen to this. And she sings for, I don't know, probably 2/3 of the song by herself. And then as it goes, everyone joins in. And you have this like full, I don't know, hymn moment going on. And then also you see the grayed out ghost that Jordan mentioned earlier. You see them appear too, just all around at the funeral. So it just, it gets bigger. There's so many people there for this moment. And then everyone walks away and it's over. Act 5.
Yeah, very not anticlimactic, but like just not what I expected. And pretty sad and moving, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get too ahead of before we talk about general thoughts on this act, but I thought it was good.
Me too. I think, again, like this whole act was, it wasn't what I expected at all, but I really liked it. I thought it was like a really powerful send-off for these meaningful horses, for them, for the neighbors. And then for you, it was like a meaningful send-off to ending the game almost. It was like, okay, you did it.
Delivered the stuff.
Yeah.
the goal. Got it.
Yeah, we delivered the stuff. We went on this journey. hopefully setting up this new town, trying to rebuild, that kind of thing. So it was interesting. Yeah, not what I expected, but that song was really nice. Really enjoyed that. And then last thing is there's a surprise interlude. You don't see this at first, but once you finish this episode, this interlude is available. It's called Death of a Hired Man, and you get this from meeting Carrington in episode 1. And this episode is just Harry and Carrington sitting in a hotel room. You can't see them, and they're talking to each other, and all you see is a TV that's on, and different things flicker on it. And I think Weaver flickers on it at some point.
Yeah. Who's Harry again? I can't remember.
I think he is the gas station guy, right?
Okay, that's who I was thinking, but I wonder if they're in the gas station watching.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. But that's what that interlude is. I don't know what to make of it other than I guess the Weaver connection thing of she's again still outside of space and time, it seems, or something, and is doing stuff.
Sure.
Doing stuff behind the scenes, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. It was cool. I like the more interactive ones, but
yeah, this one
it was more like the telephone one, I think, from I forget which interlude that was, but
exactly. That's what I was going to say too. It was more like the telephone one. So for that one, I thought that one was okay. Same for this one. I definitely enjoyed the more interactive ones too. The radio station I liked, even the exhibit that Emily, Ben, and Bob were at. I think that was the first one where we were looking at the artwork.
Yeah.
And the entertainment, obviously, that one was cool too. But yeah, that is Act 5. So I guess next what we wanted to do was just give some closing thoughts on Act 5 as a whole. What do you have here?
Yeah, I really enjoyed playing as the cat. I don't know why. I there's something about it, the cat chasing the dragonfly. It just, I don't know. It seemed innocent or pure. I don't really know what to say about it, but after kind of some of the somberness with Conway and the debt and seeing some other things that were kind of sad or whatever, it was oh, okay. And then the flood, obviously, of this town. It was just kind of oh, this is kind of cool. I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. I think it was an interesting way to navigate the story of this episode. Was a cat eavesdropping and meowing at people. It was chasing a dragonfly. It was just pretty funny. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was cool. A good change. It was interesting to see that. One thing for me is we mentioned it some along the way, but I think just after changing scenery so frequently before, to stay in one location was pretty surprising. That's not a move I would have guessed at all for the developers. They've gone so many places, and then to shift it to sticking in one spot, I thought that was cool and unexpected. So yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I have some thoughts that I'm going to save for the overall general thoughts on this.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed the scenery in this episode. I think it was probably my favorite looking episode that we've played of Kentucky Route Zero. Just something about the sunshine and the grass. It felt the most bright. I guess it was the most bright, but I really enjoyed that. Yeah. I enjoyed staying in one spot. Wasn't expecting it, but I think it added to some of the depth of just what was going on in the town because you couldn't leave the town.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they did that well. So I agree. It was cool.
Yeah.
And then I think we have similar things for our last points, but I'm not sure what to think about the ending. Definitely felt things about it. It's kind of sad, but I don't know what it means or. Yeah, it seems like a weird way to wrap up this game from where we started. Like if you would have told me at the beginning of the game when I first started playing, trying to deliver some antiques, I'd be like, "You're crazy. This is not where it ends. There's no way." Like this, like it's surprising, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. I wouldn't have been able to guess something like this. And similarly, I don't know what to make of it. Like, there's, I don't know, one side where it could just be really, really tragic, right? I don't know, we've seen people be fucked over basically the whole time in this game related to
Yep.
capitalism and money issues and things like that. The electric company or whatever like bailed on this town. They got wrecked. It really hurt it. Now a natural disaster hits it.
You got the coal company or the whatever mining company in the beginning.
Yeah. The mining company abandoned their miners and they all died.
In a flood.
In a flood.
Similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Similar. And, you potentially could have an ending here where everyone just leaves and this town's abandoned and everyone keeps on drifting, I guess. Which that's a pretty tragic option. On the other hand, there could be a hopeful angle you could look at it towards is our people got here to help rebuild. People stayed. Weaver was working behind the scenes to allow a restart, a second chance, and maybe these people make it work. And this is one chapter turning and a new one beginning. I don't know. And then really also, it could just be both. It's probably a mix of those. And I don't, I don't know. I'm not sure. I could be convinced either way, and I could be convinced of something that's not those two, but I don't know what to put it as.
Yeah, I think I feel similarly. It seems, I feel like my ending was decently hopeful because I assume most people stayed to rebuild, which is cool, but a lot of people still died. And everything's fucking destroyed, so it's still definitely really somber and sad. But just not what I expected, and I don't want to, I have more thoughts on overall ending later, but I think it's definitely not what I expected, but not necessarily in a bad way.
Yeah.
But just a different ending than I would have foreseen.
Definitely. Cool. Do you want to jump over to listener feedback?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. We've got a couple people's thoughts on Act 5. First up, we've got Ludo Narrative on Twitter, who says, "There's a song in Act 5 that got me surprisingly emotional. You'll know the one when you've played it." Oh, yeah. Hard agree.
Yep. Hard agree, definitely. Demo Lens on Reddit said, "Act 5 was pretty good, but felt a bit of a long wait for it to come out. I think I might have hyped it up too much in my head. After a second playthrough and a bit more reading, I felt a lot happier." So, seems like this is a person who, probably waited a while, a couple years in between Act 4 and 5, or, whatever the time frame was, which we didn't have to do.
Yeah, no, I imagine that would be hard. Especially if they'd been playing since the beginning. The hype you'd have going into the final act. I've waited however long for this. That would be wild. But that's nice to hear that second playthrough and some reading improved it for them. They enjoyed it even more. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we've got Sleepy Hollow on Reddit said, "I love Act 5. I'm really pleased with how Cardboard Computer closed it out, but it was obviously such a deliberate departure from how the game had functioned up until then. Act 4 was the last time I felt we got to generally sit with the magical formula of the vignettes of the game and feel the magical realist genre as a whole is so good at. That the game is so good at." So yeah, this we mentioned this too, but yeah, total departure from what the game had looked like before this. So yeah, interesting for sure.
Yes, very, very different. Celestial Drive on Reddit said, "Act 5 was fantastic. If a little short and too static of setting, It was all theme and no wandering, which makes sense for the end of a journey, but it's weird for Kentucky Route Zero.
Yep. Yeah. I think, again, similar page there to us, kind of how it went. Makes sense for an end of a journey, but a little odd for the game it's been. So that's kind of Act 5. So now we kind of want to move into, I don't know, bigger thoughts on this. So I think one question that we felt was important to answer is our favorite acts and interludes. So, this game has been a journey for sure, and we've gotten to experience a lot of different stuff. So, what was your favorite act? What was your favorite interlude?
I think my favorite act was 2. It's really hard to say, but I really enjoyed Act 2 where you met, like, Ezra and Julian, and I feel like it really expanded the breadth of the characters and, like, kind of what was going on, and it just got so much weirder. I think that's Act 2, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you go to, like, the Museum of Dwellings and stuff.
Yeah, and you find the doctor, or try to. That was my favorite act. I think it just... Because Act 1 was, like, weird, and you're like, okay, what... This is weird. But then Act 2 was like, okay, this is very strange. Just like Twilight Zone. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I really liked the entertainment was my favorite interlude. I liked the dialogue was really good. I felt like it had some drama, some flair to it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then the skeleton at the end again was like, what the hell? This is so weird. I really want to see how this is going to be incorporated into the main story. So I think that was the interlude that really hooked me the most,
mm-hmm.
and made me really wonder and hope we saw the skeleton again. So I think those are my 2, Act 2 and then the entertainment.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm with you for the entertainment. That was my favorite as well, which I was really surprised by. At first it's like, it's just this play and it's, sort of goofy and you're even trying to figure out what's going on for a little bit. And then you kind of figure out, you're like, oh, I'm in this play. And then, when you had the Hard Times Whiskey guy show up and you're like, holy shit, that was awesome.
Like, that's a skeleton.
Yeah, that's a yellow skeleton over. And you're like, okay, that's scary. So I thought that was really cool. And then for me, my favorite act was Act 4, which was when you were going up and down the Echo River and all those stops along the way.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. I really liked the various people we met along the way, and I thought that was really interesting. So that one would be my favorite, but I did enjoy Act 2 quite a lot as well.
Yeah, I think Act 4 is probably my second favorite. Because again, there's a lot of stuff that happens, and it does flesh out characters even more. You get to meet a lot of people, and the world does definitely get weirder, which is cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I think for me, Act 2 would probably be my second place as well. So I feel like we're pretty similar vibes for what we liked.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess from here, Celestial Drive on Reddit said the entertainment was their favorite. Bizarrely, I played it after Act 3, knowing what was coming all the way through, which I dare say made it better. That's interesting to have played it instead of between Act 2 and Act 3, you play it after Act 3. That's note.
Yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep D Hollow on Reddit said, oh, oops. Wait, yeah, that's right. Sorry. Lost my train of thought, whatever. I personally really enjoyed Act 4 the most. I bought it after Act 3 had just come out, so I got to experience the first 3 as a single package. But when 4 came out, with its meandering boat journey, separated from the Zero and even the world above, it just felt so different, and of course it was all in service to the winding turn at the end. Mushroom hunting, the Bureau workers hanging out at the rum colony, the past tense interactions at the Radvansky Center. I always loved the museum in Act 2 for its twist in the dialogue. And of course, The World Is Not My Home, quote unquote, my favorite musical number in the game. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in Act 4. I think I'd forgotten about some of that. I wonder if I would change my opinion, actually.
Yeah, those were good. The World Is Not My Home, because when they're on the they're at the seafood place, right, where the guy and his wife have the thing, and you hear them performing on the boat, right, when you walk down.
Yeah.
that song was great. That was
Yeah.
good. Yeah, that episode is. I really enjoyed that. Blue Boggle on Reddit says the entertainment is my absolute favorite part of the game. I'd love to experience it on an actual stage and play the part of the drunk. I do a terrible job of staying in character though because I'd be grinning like a fool the whole time. That would be really cool. I would have never thought of this idea. I love that they brought this up. That would be super cool to like just see this happen, like to go see this in a theater or something, or get to be a part of it like they mentioned. That would be really cool to be the barfly and just intake that whole scene as you.
Yeah, just listening.
Yeah.
Knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, to be like an observer but a participant at the same time, like you were in the game. Oh, that would be really cool. I would be so about that. I love that idea.
Yeah, that's cool.
Really, I guess actually, sorry, side comment because they mentioned this, but they should really, Kentucky Route Zero would probably be, I mean, I don't know how you do all of it, but specifically this part, that would be cool to see like a traveling play of some of this stuff. Like, I bet it would be really interesting to experience. I bet, like, going through the different scenes, because you change so much, I don't know if you could do that for plays as well. I think this Act 5 could be a play since it's all in one place. I don't think that would be too wild to do. But I don't know if you would be able to necessarily do every place along the way or not. But, like, yeah, I would love that. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I think a TV show would be easier. Like something on Netflix would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
It'd be so weird. It'd be such a strange TV show.
It would be very weird.
I feel like it'd be like, what's that? Is it Twin Peaks or...
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like that shows. I've only seen a few episodes, but that show's fucking weird. I feel like it's like that.
Yeah, I think so. I've only seen a little bit of Twin Peaks too, but I can only imagine that was a big influence on these guys making this game. It had to be.
Yeah, it's very similar to like what the hell is going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. Last up for this section, Demo Lens on Reddit said, my favorite act was probably Act 2. Had my favorite atmosphere in the scene at the end where you're running down through the forest while Long Journey Home plays is amazing. So yeah, I think oh, yep, I do remember that. It's like the same band that plays in a lot of the episodes. But I do remember that part, running through the trees with Johnny,
right.
Ezra. No. Ezra, yep.
Yeah, because you're trying to get...
Little boy, that's his name.
Yeah, because you're trying to get to the doctor while you're going through, and Conway's like really fucked up at this point.
Yep.
Yeah. That was cool. Cool. I guess from here we can just move on into our kind of general thoughts on Kentucky Route Zero as a whole. So, my first thought is just... I'm really impressed with this game, and I'm really glad we played it. Like, I've seen it on list over the years since we've been podcasting of, like, best narrative games, things like that. Like, it's got some hype behind it, and I'm really glad we played it. Like, I've kind of... It's been sort of on a wish list in my mind for a while of, like, it would be really cool to get around to playing it. And now that we have, I'm really glad we spent our time doing this. Like, this was a super... enjoyable experience and like rewarding to think about different things on here, and definitely fun to speculate as we go, because neither of us knew shit about this game before going in, so it was like the whole time being like, what the fuck is this, and all of that. Like that really made for a really enjoyable experience. So I really am glad we played this.
Yeah, me too. Did not know what to expect, but I liked what we got. So yeah, this is maybe one of the more confusing games I've played, but also like one of the most creative games I've played. Mm-hmm. I don't know how people would even sit down and think about, oh yeah, let's do this specifically and go this direction. Like that's insane. It's really crazy. But I think one specific thing I really liked about it is I really liked the use of sound throughout. So like I think we mentioned this in Act 1 or our first episode, but because there's no dialogue, like actual voice dialogue, the sounds in the background they popped more. So I think I was more focused on them. They were it just sounded really good. And then the use of music throughout was really good too. Like at the end of episodes or like the funeral, or random performances, they always felt really impactful and like they hit harder, I think, because there was no other dialogue until you got to those more emotional quote unquote points where there was some song. So I think that was really well done generally from every act.
Yeah, I agree. I think this game might be one of the best uses of sound that I've experienced, because like you said, there's so much where you don't, because this might be wrong, but I think the first time we hear a character of ours make sound by singing ever is when Junebug and Johnny perform at the bar in Act 3.
Yeah.
And that's the first time
I think it is.
hear anyone.
Oh,
so it's
no,
like,
No. There's, I think the end of Act 1, we hear like the band go by and sing, but it's...
Are they singing? They're not just playing?
I think they are. I think they're singing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we should... We'll fact check that, but I'm pretty sure they're singing. Like, I remember it being like a bluegrass song.
Okay.
But maybe that was Act 2. I can't remember.
No, I mean, it might have been, and maybe I just didn't catch it. Or it didn't, like, stand out in my mind the way Junebug did, where it was like, oh, like, this game doesn't have voice acting, but they're going to break that rule for this song. I remember being really struck by that, because I hadn't anticipated that. We'd spent quite a while in the game before that, and they're like, oh, this is different. Really cool. I agree. This sound design and everything with this is very cool.
Yep. Really good.
Yeah. Another thing for me, I think, about this game, all in all, is I would love to see a quote-unquote, like, behind the music for this game. Like how, I don't know, back in the day, VH1 used to do that about bands of like, all right, here's the story about them. Here's all this stuff. Or like an oral history of Kentucky Route Zero. Like, I would love to just hear the people that made this game talk about that process. I mean, I can't imagine going from making a Kickstarter to releasing a game over 7 years, like all of the things that would go on in that, like, and choosing to do different things, right? Like the end of the game, what we've talked about a lot, changing from mini sceneries to one, all the other acts, it was act and then a bunch of scenes. This one wasn't that way. You didn't have dialogue ever, then you got more. The graphics in the game look different as it goes on because it was built over a period of years. Like what a unique thing. I would love to just hear like all the behind the scenes info. That would be so cool.
Yeah, me too. It'd be like a documentary worthy thing for sure.
Yeah, totally.
1000% agree. Yeah. I think very broadly too, like it was a really good mix of like confusion, like mystery, like what the hell is going on, and very clear commentaries on, like, I don't know, I'm not sure exactly what you'd call it, like capitalism or people getting screwed over by corporations or natural disasters and people not helping the way they should, things like that. So it was like those themes were weaved in throughout. Weaved in throughout this weird, like, okay, this is like, yeah, like Narnia, like what the fuck is happening, but those things were so clear. So I think that was really well done too. Like you never forgot, okay, people are messed up, or like people are getting screwed over by these things, these corporations, this agencies, whatever you want to call them. No matter what situation, if they're on in some underground river, like you still know, okay, yeah, there's this, like the monument to the miners. You're like, okay, can't forget about that. Even though this is in some weird fantastical universe, bad things still happen. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, that you really saw that through there. Yeah, it was a unique way to tell those stories. Yeah. My last kind of general thought is I think that Kentucky Route Zero is a strong entry in the like games or art discussion. So, there's a lot of debate people have are like, are video games art or not? Or are they like, I don't know, just entertainment or something like that? And I think that this one definitely would hit the like art side of things for sure. It was fun and like I was entertained by it, but like I feel like this would be worthy of being put into a class with like certain novels or different things like that. Like this is a notable experience that is worth having and like going through or whatever. So I thought that was cool. Like we've played some games that I would categorize as art more than entertainment, or that, you know, there's sometimes blends, but this one I feel like leans a little more into the art even, and is cool and yeah, notable. I think it deserves respect, and it does seem to get it from the people who are engaged with this type of stuff. But you know, definitely hits that for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think of any game I've played, this would fit way more like soundly in that category of art than at least what I'm thinking of right now. Anything else I've played. So yeah, it makes me think like, obviously not every video game is art, but some video games are definitely art. Like, I think that has to be acknowledged. Like this was creative, super creative, which is art. You know, yeah, it was crafted. Some people crafted this. Not just they didn't just make it to make $50 a pop. You know, this was like someone's brainchild that they developed, created, crafted. That's art. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess my final thought too is like, I liked the ending, but I really wish it would have wrapped things up more. To like, in two main ways, I guess. Like Conway, I feel like he just disappeared. I'm not like pissed they did that. I kind of like that they just had the main character and he just disappears. That's unique. That doesn't happen almost ever. But I still wish we would have seen something about him again. I feel like his story was just kind of disappeared as opposed to wrapped up or ended. And then two, I would have liked to know more about, okay, what the actual fuck is Kentucky Route Zero? That would have been nice. But that said, I'm not pissed. More just like, I guess I'll just have to go dig and read people's thoughts on it. One of those like, you decide what it is type things, which I find annoying sometimes. But I will put the time in to figure out what people think.
Yeah.
It's my opinion.
No, yeah. No, I get that. I feel like it would have been nice to have certain things wrapped up or defined for you a little more. But I do think you're right on the other side, too. I think this game will be fun to continue to dig around on our own and just get to understand more of what people think about it. And, okay, well, what does this mean? Or, you know, that sort of stuff. And hopefully, too, as time goes on, more and more people play it, too. Because until 2020, it was only on PC. But then they made like the console edition, which we got, and you know now is accessible for everyone or whatever. So hopefully that means more people are playing it, and then more theories are going out there, and all of that.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of those like left some open-ended questions that in a good way, because it makes me want to go look into what those answers might be, as opposed to like, what the fuck did I just play? What the fuck did I just watch? Like, I'm never thinking about that again. That was not the case, which is good. I'm trying to think of an example of like a game or movie. Mostly probably a movie that did something like that, but I can't think of anything. But people probably know what I'm talking about. That feeling where you're like confused. And you're like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm not going to devote any time to figuring out what that was about or why. But this game is not like that.
Yeah, this one instead, it pulls you in more. Kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you for summarizing that.
No, that's awesome.
My rant. Yeah.
That's great.
That's all I got for overall feedback. I don't know if you have anything else.
No, that covers it for me too. So last up, we've got a little bit of general thoughts from people on Kentucky Route Zero at large. So first up, we got Sleep D Hollow on Reddit, who says, "It's the best story I've experienced of any medium. It captures so much that I've experienced living as a working class American and injects that harsh and nebulous life with incredible, sweeping, and impactful everyday magic and mystery. It's one of those stories that you need everyone in your life to experience. I've got the road sign tattooed on my arm."
That's crazy.
That's cool. That's awesome. And cool to see how much of it like resonates and that it was such an impactful story. That's so cool to hear.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great comment there for sure. Might have to reread that later. Celestial Drive on Reddit said, I think Kentucky Route Zero can be loosely tracked as the story of a group, aka putting together Conway and Shannon's groups, the Land/Zero with the company at the center, or Lula Chamberlain. All three are basically different stories in different genres even. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
That is interesting. And I can kind of see those different trails you could go down and be like, it's about this, and make a good like essay on that almost.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
A
like,
5-paragraph persuasive essay.
Yeah, totally. You could. Which is, yeah, that's notable. Do you want to get the next one too?
Oh, yeah, sure. So you're going to get the beastie one at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Demo Lens on Reddit said, it is definitely a very personal experience and something I don't tell my friends about a lot. Due to the excessive reading and whatnot, it feels hard to share with people. They ask, I simply tell them it looks good and is comfy to play. People really have to find it in their own time to enjoy it, in my opinion. That's an interesting take. It is kind of hard to explain. I don't know how I would explain to someone who didn't play it. Like, I don't even know where I'd start. It's like, it's about a guy delivering some stuff, and crazy stuff happens. Like, that has nothing to do with it. But it's, yeah, I agree. It's hard to explain this.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what you'd say either. Also, they have a little more on their comment. I just spaced it out.
Oh, shoot. Yep, you're right. The game is genuinely one of my favorites due to its sort of mystical groundedness. It's one of those experiences that you will not enjoy if you play games solely for strong gameplay mechanics. I think that everyone has a personal takeaway from it. Thanks, I missed that.
No, you're good. I spaced it out weird on the document by mistake. But I think that goes into what they were saying before that too. It's like, I wouldn't push people to play this either. I think I would be like, hey, you might want to check this out. Like, I think it would be a bit lighter than I might be with other games where I think that, like, oh man, once you play, like, the first level of this game, you're, like, you play the beginning of The Last of Us. You probably know if you want to play it or not, And so I'm going to be like, play it, and, if after that first hour you don't want to play it, then I guess I was wrong. But I'm betting on the fact that 1 hour in, you're going to play the whole game.
Yeah.
But I could describe it and be like, zombies, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But for
survival.
Yeah. But for this, you would be like, it's pretty fucking trippy.
Kentucky, underground people. That's all I got.
Yeah, like, I don't know how you'd be able to exactly describe it. And I don't know how you'd pitch it to someone. I think it would almost have to be like, hey, maybe check out this trailer. This might be a thing you'd be into. And then they'd just have to decide, yeah, I want to check this out, or no, I don't. And just bail, Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Because I, like, other games, I feel like you could try to push someone a little bit and be like, dude, I know you're going to like this. Keep playing. But this one, I'm like, I think if you didn't want to play it, I just don't know that you'd enjoy it or get anything out of it. And because of you, like, you would miss it because you're not willing to take it in or whatever, which I think is a good point. I think it would be one of those things that you'd have to, like, if it was always in your top 5 or 10 games or something, you're like, yeah, this is great, and people just keep seeing it, and then they're finally like, all right, I'm going to check this game out, and I'll see what it's about, and they get to experience it.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right. I guess on to our last comment. This is from Violet Berry on Reddit. This is a bigger comment, as Jordan alluded to, but they have a lot of good stuff to say, so I just took the whole comment, and we'll go through it now. So, it says, Kentucky Route Zero is one of those works you don't even know where to start. Kentucky Route Zero touches on so much, but it all feels so interconnected. Magical realism, ghost stories, political comedy / satire, personal tragedy, just vibe and mumblecore, Heartland Gothic, General Americana, Appalachian folklore, the Lynchian thingy, and probably plenty else I'm forgetting. But at the heart of it, it's all there, just this heartbreaking longing for a better world, specifically a better America, alongside a total fantastical reverence for the plight of absolutely every single person involved, and just unease and kind of absurdist fright towards capitalist systems behind said plights. It's that thing where you romanticize every good angle of something horrible, without ever taking your eyes away from the deep evil and badness at the center. Kentucky Route Zero gets how cool the vibes are of some grizzled old alcoholic trekking across the country with nothing but his truck and his dog. But it also knows how sad those people really are, that no one should have to live like that, because those cool vibes are inexorable from the deep loneliness and, honestly, economic destitution. Same goes for two young musicians traveling the world on their motorcycle. They're cool as hell, but the entire circumstance of what they're doing is bad. They got so sick of being worked to death that they decided they'd rather risk their lives to be happy for even moments at a time. It's an almost impossible line to walk, simultaneously criticizing and romanticizing basically everything that is and surrounds a quiet moment spent outside a major city in the USA, and it's fucking powerful. It's just empathy and compassion and sadness and malaise and finally catharsis. No happy endings, just brief moments of catharsis born out of deeply understood and articulated pain. You will not find a home in the USA. This country is dying. Capitalism is not going to be salvaged or fixed, but it's your right to try and find one anyway. If you do, it'll probably be taken away from you, but it's fucking worth it. It's better to care, even when you know you'll lose. In caring, you'll find something that was worthwhile, even if everything is as precisely as awful and unjust as you think it is. Kentucky Route Zero is probably my favorite story ever. Like, I'm pretty sure putting it up against every other movie, TV show, game, and book I've ever consumed, Kentucky Route Zero has touched me the most. Don't get me wrong, I was bored at plenty of the sloggier points, but ultimately, I've never felt this heard and emotionally educated by a single work before.
Wow.
Fucking killed it. That's a fucking comment.
That's like a fucking intro to a book. That's great.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, if they won't,
or it's like a review, like a solid. That's a review.
Oh yeah, if they were gonna write like a short novel or something like that about Kentucky Route Zero, oh man, they've got it. Like this is fantastic. And it's hard on one sense. Like I think we should comment on it, but some of it is they've said it better than I certainly can.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much of both that, like, getting these great moments amid the shittiness. You see that so much in this game, of just those glimpses of good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive. I like reading this comment, thinking like this, all that is so accurate, but I didn't know how to say it, or like, I couldn't articulate it or describe it. But now I still can't. But I'm like, yes, that sums it up really well. So yeah, I don't know how someone can take all of that and then distill it that succinctly and hit all the major themes. That's really, really well done. Yeah, I'm gonna have to reread it. It's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, super cool. Yeah. Thank you for adding that in. That was a great point. Alongside all of the other stuff people said too. I really appreciated those, but this one stood out when I read it the first time. I was like, I can't wait to read this. Like, and share it with everyone else listening, because I feel like, lots of these were points that we came up with, like, mentioned along the way, but didn't pull them as hard as we could, or articulated them as well. And I thought that this was especially cool. And yeah, I think that's something that, again, is cool about this podcast, and I appreciate a lot, is people chiming in, people be willing to throw in their experiences and their thoughts, because we don't have them all, obviously, and between us two at all. There are plenty of things, and I feel like this game probably hit that, especially. So,
that's probably pretty apparent.
Yeah, especially like episode 1, we're just like, what the fuck's going on? Like most of the time, But that makes me really thankful and appreciative of people who write in and have stuff to say, because I think that gives a fuller, better picture of stuff like that. Like, I really like that paragraph that was contrasting of like there's some stuff that's really cool and badass about musicians just doing their thing, but then also like that kind of fucking sucks. Like the the dude who lived on the barge, the gas station barge guy, that we had that conversation about. Like, is it good to not be memorable or not? Like those kind of conversations that happen through this game.
Yeah.
It's cool because you're like, part of it, yeah, sure, I see you, and then the other part, you're like, but that's fucking sad. And like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
this comment really encapsulates that so much of what this was. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was cool as hell.
Yeah, I agree. Very great game. Go play it if you haven't, or listen to this and then maybe consider it.
Yeah, I hope that anyone who's gotten this far has played the game for themselves. Very worthy of their experience, and even if they haven't, I think that experiencing it, we certainly didn't hit up any or all of the things that we could have. There are so many little details and moments that are cool and maybe would strike more meaningful to you, or be something we just forgot but was meaningful to us, or any of that. So yeah, cool game. But yeah, that's all I've got on Kentucky Route Zero. Do you have any other things?
No, I think that covers it for me.
Cool. All right. Well, that is our episode on Kentucky Route Zero. If you've got more thoughts on it, please send them our way. You can talk to us on Twitter at StoryEverPod. That would be awesome. We'd love to talk about this or other games. Let us know what you're into. That would be cool. Our website's TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed.com. That has a backlog of all of our episodes. So go check those out if you'd like. If you'd like to support the podcast financially, you can do that at patreon.com/TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed. For as little as $1 per month, that will get you access to a backlog of topical episodes. So we do a topical episode each month about something typically related to gaming. So we've ranked the Life is Strange episodes. We've talked about our favorite games from childhood, things like that. But we'll also hit up things outside of video games. Like we talked about fantasy football one time. We talked about The Mandalorian once, the season 1. So, if any of that interests you, check that out. If you'd like to support the podcast but can't financially, that's cool. Totally get it. One way you could do that is just tell friends about it. We'd love to have more people getting to interact with the games we all enjoy. I think that's something that's really cool about this. Certainly something we saw here in this episode, especially with comments, but we love that all the time. Or, reviewing us on iTunes or something, that would be cool too. That would be helpful. But yeah, that is our episode, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. See you.